Hi, Michael here with a quick video, Gear Inches Explained. There are 5 parts to the video. There's historical, how to calculate gear inches, a few examples, a quick summary, and then there's a bonus, speed calculations. So, why inches? Well, it's historical. The UK and the USA, and in fact all of the English-speaking world in those days used inches. Other countries use a different system. They use what they call development, which is the distance travelled in one revolution of the crank arms. But we don't need to be concerned about that. The very first bikes were the penny farthing, invented in the 1870s. You can see here this guy looks like a letter carrier, and his wheel, I'm guessing, is about 54 inches. This guy looks like sort of leisure bicyclist, as they called them in those days, and that wheel looks a little bit bigger. And you can see from this picture here that with a wheel that small, it's going to be easy to ride, but you're not going to go very fast. Penny farthings were designated by the size of the wheel. A big wheel, about 60 inches, is faster but more difficult uphill. A small wheel, about 44 inches, was much easier uphill but very slow speed. So generally, wheels were about 54 inches as a compromise. The next development was the safety bicycle in round about the 1890s. These had smaller wheels for safety. They were driven by a chain and they had but a single gear. But the idea of gear ratio came into things. And it's the chainring teeth divided by the number of sprocket teeth. Of course, they wanted to compare the safety bicycle to the penny farthing, and gear inches are a very good way of comparing a geared bike to a penny farthing equivalent. So the gear inch was defined, it was known, it was understood as being the wheel size multiplied by the gear ratio. Remember that, it comes in important later. By the 1930s, derailleurs came into being, and they allowed for a range of gears, but we still use the term gear inches because it was well understood. Here are 2 early derailleurs from round about the 1940s. You can probably see that they've got 1, 2, 3 speeds. Of course, modern derailleurs have 1, 2 or 3 chain wheels, anywhere from 5 to 12 sprockets on freewheels or cassettes. These days it's cassettes. And the idea of gear inches is still useful. So how do we calculate gear inches? Well, here we've got G, which is the number of gear inches, is equal to W, that's the wheel size, in inches. So it's the wheel size multiplied by the gear ratio, which is the number of teeth on the chainring divided by the number of teeth on the sprocket. Let's have a look at an example. This is a nice bike. It's the Quella Nero fixed gear. They're manufactured near me. Now this has got a wheel size here of 700C, which is 29 inches. The chain wheel here, 44 teeth. The sprocket, 18, and when you put all those numbers in, you get a gear inch of 80. Let's have a look at a mountain bike. As an example, the Marin, or however you pronounce it, Bobcat Trail. Here it is. It's got a wheel size of 29, chainring, single chainring you notice, 32 teeth, and it's got an 11-speed sprocket on the cassette on the back, 11 to 46, and when you put those numbers into the formula you find a gear range from 20 at the low end up to 84 at the high end. Here's a rather sporty hybrid bike, Specialized Cirrus. You can see it here, looks like a nice bike, doesn't it? Wheel size 29, chain wheel 48 to 32, and sprockets 11 to 28. That gives a gear range from 33 inches at the low end up to 126 at the high end. And looking at this rather nice Ribble Endurance, example of a nice road bike, wheel size of 700C, 29 inches, chain wheel quite a lot bigger, 50 to 34, and sprockets 11 to 36, and if you work it through that gives a gear range of 27 inches up to 130 at the top end. So as a summary, generally a gear inch of round about 20 or less is really good for when you've got very steep hills and or difficult terrain. 22 to 28, that's okay for moderate hills. 30 to 110 is good for most on-road riding. And gear inches greater than 120, well, that's for fast road bikes, for people who are really in a hurry. And as a bonus, you can actually do a speed calculation. Of course, your speed depends on the gear inches and it depends on how fast you pedal. That's called the cadence, pedal revs per minute. So your speed here is your gear inches multiplied by your cadence, and then it's divided by 336. This is a conversion factor that allows for the circumference of the wheel and changes inches per minute, which is not a useful measure, into miles per hour. And I did this calculation for my everyday bike, and at my very sedate cadence of 60 I can get up to about 17 miles an hour, which is enough for an old bloke my age. Anyway, there's gear inches explained. Hope you enjoyed it and learnt something from it. Michael signing off now. Bye.